So a lot of questions have come in about renting in Hawaii. Let me do a quick rundown of the kind of things that we've been getting. So Christy from Kansas City, how hard is it to get a place to rent without a job first? I know I can't get a loan until we have some income. John from Kansas said, hey, rental housing. I'm being transferred to Oahu for work. It's my wife and I have a small dog. Where should I start to look for housing? We're not ready to buy yet. How do we handle the pets? Christina from Kentucky, hey, where's rent the cheapest with great beaches? Marianne from Pennsylvania, would it be appropriate rental place for us? Where would be an appropriate rental price for a small house on the Big Island? Nothing fancy. Morgan, Big Island, hey, I'm hoping to relocate to Hawaii with my company. How difficult is it to find a place to rent? And that's not it. We have more. We had Christina from Indiana. Hey, I want to live there, but right now my sons are starting their families. I don't want to miss it. So I'm thinking about a property I'll be able to rent, but visit a few times a year. Another one from Angie from California. My family of three humans. 3 humans and 2 small dogs are going to relocate to Oahu for my husband's job. It's been a dream for us. We're trying to find how do we find a pet-friendly, short-term furnished 2-bedroom rental for less than $6K a month? I've been searching all over the place. I've looked at VRBO and things of that nature. What do I do? Another question from Pera from Tucson, Arizona. I'm a counselor and plan to move with dogs and children. Is it easier to rent or buy a house? And what does the job market look like for therapists? Marla from Texas, is it better to get an apartment and pay the upfront entire lease while I look for a job, or look to purchase a cheap condo? You get the idea. There's all kinds of stuff going on about renting. So there's a lot to fly through. And so what I decided is that let's break this up and let's talk about renting. So Dylan, if you can talk to the rent versus buy kind of questions that we got, if you can kind of share what your insights are and your wisdom is on that. Scott, if you can kind of hit the whole, I want to find a short-term place to rent, rent for a couple months while I'm looking for a house, or, how do I get something because I can't rent remotely, it's not working for me, etc. If you could talk to that part. And Heidi, if you could kind of talk about the investment piece, right? I'm a part-time, I want to live there a few months out of the year and maybe kind of rent out the rest of the unit. And also about pets. What's the deal with getting a place to rent with pets? I think if we do that, there'd be a good rental sort of a show here. Yeah, Christina, a lot of Christinas. So Dylan, and again, you guys want to talk about anything else as well, pop it in, but just on a general guideline basis. Dylan, rent versus buy. What's your advice here?
Well, the general advice versus rent versus buy is always, rent, you just take your cash and then write it on fire and it goes away, right? Because you're paying for a landlord to pay his mortgage or grow his equity in that property. And when you buy, you get tax benefits, your mortgage interest can be written off, plus you get the appreciation benefit over the years. So a lot of times the money that you pay towards a mortgage, you make back plus some, and you end up netting more of a benefit than you would that you paid through your mortgage over 5, 10, 15 years. So really, if you can buy, you should buy, just from a financial standpoint, a very basic financial standpoint. And I always tell people, regular folks, the biggest way for regular folks to build wealth is through real estate. I mean, just in your home, your single family home that you buy, not buying and selling and doing all kind of crazy other investments. But so definitely, if you can buy, you should. And, even if you're not buying the ideal thing, maybe in 3 to 5 years, you upgrade and you take the equity that you make from that house and then you go and you buy something else. But definitely, if you can, you should. And it's not always ideal, but definitely all of the problems that everybody is finding right now, that's not new. It's not going to change anytime soon. The rental market is always tight. There's very few rentals. And that's another option that you have if you buy, is you could become that landlord. Maybe you buy and in 5 years you buy something else and you turn that existing house that you have into a rental, and you reap the benefits of having 2 properties. So there's a lot to consider, but definitely, I know Heidi's got the pets topic. If you're trying to rent with pets, good luck. Very, very hard.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan. Appreciate that. So, Dylan, your advice is if you can buy. If you can buy instead of rent, buy instead of rent. I think we're all in a huge agreement with
Even
that
with, I
one.
mean, in our market here, the cost, I mean, it's almost one for one. The cost to rent a 2 bedroom, 2 bath condo in Kona is almost $2,000 a month. The cost to buy one is under $400,000. So your mortgage plus your HOA could be pretty much the exact same as your rent is going to be. And so you're not really there's this conventional wisdom that like maybe you save money by renting, you don't pay as much, but you also get none of it back. So even if you're paying a little bit more, 10-20% more for a mortgage than you would rent, that is an investment towards your future, and you're banking that money for the future, which you're going to get back. You'll never get rent back.
A mortgage is the way I heard it in one sentence. A mortgage is a forced savings account. Okay, Scott, somebody wants to rent. They're coming to Oahu, whether they're coming for long term or short term. They can't find rentals easily because no one's renting to them. The landlords aren't even calling them back. What's your recommendation on what do I need to do to find a place to rent on Oahu? A lot of people ask you this question, Scott. So here's your chance to kind of give your answer to everybody.
Yeah, I actually a little bit shocked at that because we don't have all the tourists here, and there's a lot of units that are kind of sitting empty. So that doesn't go with conventional wisdom and what I would expect right now. I take it back one step, and I would say, look, if you're looking at moving here, and you know exactly, you're very familiar with the islands, you know exactly where you want to be, either what building, what neighborhood, come and do the short-term rental. Otherwise, if you're not that familiar, come and you either do a longer term rental, 6 months, or you get into a shorter term rental, say Waikiki, and then rent in another area. So you can start to get familiar with the culture, the area that you would want to be, commute times, things such as that. Do that first. The move is difficult to begin with to come over here. Then from the rental side, I mean, if you're looking at shorter term, Airbnb and VRBO, they're out there. There's hotel occupancy right now is at 25%. That means the VRBO Airbnb rental market is going to be in that same category. We don't have all the tourists over here right now. So the shorter term vacation rental units, shorter term, say month to month, you can even negotiate on those, should be available. If you have pets, it gets significantly more complicated, and this is a rabies-free state, which Heidi can talk about. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you have to do prior to coming here for your pet if you don't want your pet to be quarantined. And the shorter term rentals typically don't allow the pets for that in the shorter term. So if you're looking at renting for 5 months in some place, I'd say, hey, maybe bump it up to 6, 9 months, and you could potentially get a lower rent, but it's spread out over a longer period of time. You're going to have a little more success. The longer the period of time, the more likelihood they're going to allow pets, and you'll find more success. And Zillow.com is a great place for rentals. They are changing to a fee for service. They're getting rid of the free portion on that. So that may change some. Craigslist, you got to be careful with because of the scams. Facebook Marketplace is another place. But if you don't have a job right now, which I know someone was saying, hey, can I pay the rent up front? All of it. Technically, what you're allowed in Hawaii is deposit and first month's rent for the landlord to collect. They're not supposed to, by law, collect the whole thing up front. So that puts you, you're not, if you can get somebody to do that, that's fine, but you're not supposed to do that. And then on top of it, we do have a moratorium on evictions right now. So landlords are very particular in scrutinizing people on who they're going to rent to, because they don't want to get into a position where someone can't pay the rent all of a sudden. And if you don't have a job lined up, now you've got an uphill battle of trying to convince a landlord to rent to you, even though you have significant number of assets sitting there. They're not allowed to collect that whole month or that whole period of rent up front. And now they got to trust that you're going to get a job and that you're going to continue to pay rent.
Scott, what's your take on the general idea of, kind of leverage Airbnb in the Airbnb or vacation rentals, get a 1 month rent, use that as like your anchor to kind of get here, And then once you're here, you've got a month, you got 30 days, maybe 60 days. And then you could kind of like drive around. You could go through you could kind of get the local feel and find a land, find the right place that you could potentially rent from, et cetera. What about that general approach? Again, the pets thing throws everything out the window. So Heidi, I want to hear what you say about that. But what about that general idea? Use Airbnb, use VRBO. I've also got corporate housing by owner. That's another source. It's like a VRBO, but use that for a month. Get a month, so it's easy. You get here, then you can start to look around. What about that general approach?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect approach to me. Is land, get here, get the move portion done, and you get into a place temporarily. You can start to get your feet on the ground a little bit, and with the empty units that are sitting down in Waikiki and whatnot, I think you got a better negotiation ability to be able to do that at a more affordable price. Some people don't want to do a double move though. So you either come and you try to have something set up for the longer term, that if you do that, you're moving at the end of that month into another place. And there is a little bit of a stress headache to that. But I love it because you get here, you get settled, the move part is done, you start to get your feet on the ground, and then you can start to explore and figure out where you do want to have that rental.
Yep, exactly. Great. All right, let's get into our Heidi. Talk to us about renting from an investment point of view. You're not going to be here 12 months out of the year. Maybe you come like as us. We had some snowbird questions earlier, and pets. What do you and you could cover whatever you want to cover first, Heidi.
Sure. Well, I'll start with kind of the renting for investment and just kind of describe in general the rental market. So on Maui, there's lots of areas where you can do short-term vacation rentals. These are mostly in resort areas and mostly condominiums. So lots of areas where you can do short-term rentals, Airbnb, you can put it in a property management program. And a property like this works really well for, like, for example, I think it was Christina who wants to visit part of the year, but not necessarily live on Maui full time. Well, by owning a vacation rental property, she could come out, a month or two out of the year, whenever you want, and then the rest of the year rent as a vacation rental and earn some income to offset those costs of ownership. So you have the vacation rentals, and then you have other areas which are residential areas, residential condominiums, pretty much everywhere else that allows long-term rentals. So Maui County defines a long-term rental as 180 days or 6 months. So like for the person that's just looking for a 5-month rental, you might consider staying an extra month, because then you'd be able to find a 6-month rental, and they're generally 6 months to a year that you're allowed to do in those communities. And then as far as the pets, definitely more difficult to find a rental with pets. There's just, that's just the truth. There are very few condominiums that allow vacation rentals and pets. There's a handful of communities, and I could tell you which ones they are. And then for long-term rentals, it's kind of up to the landlord too. Not every landlord, even if the complex allows pets, the landlord might not necessarily want to allow pets. So what some people do is, if they're not quite sure where they're going to be, is find a auntie or uncle or grandparent or somebody to watch your pet, secure your place to live, and then bring the pet over. And now you can do a program called Direct Release, where you can get all the shots and everything for your pet and get your pet ready to move to Maui. It's going to take your pet about 6 months to make sure they have all their paperwork and they're ready to move to Maui. So you want to start planning that in advance.
Yeah, the pet thing is a real big one. I think Dylan, Dylan gave you the sentiment. The Dylanism there is good luck. It's rough. And ironically, pets are, a lot of people have pets over here in our neighborhood. We do our neighborhood walk, and man, there's more dogs than people going for walks in the neighborhood. Hey, gang. So just to wrap up this topic, we get, as we all know, we get a lot of questions about rent. We're going to make this a segment that I'm going to kind of edit out and send out as an individual piece. Is there anything any of you want to share with people who are looking to rent? Is there anything that we missed that you want to add? Anything? Dylan, did we miss anything?
Number one thing is don't be picky. People have like this like really stringent criteria in mind of what they want to rent, and that's not going to work. You need to be flexible. You need to take what's available, and it may not be comfortable initially, but it is what it is because of the market the way it is. Just prepare to be flexible and don't be picky.
Don't be picky. Scott.
Yeah, on Oahu, and this was, I want to say 2 years ago, they changed this. So landlord can collect deposit, first month's rent, and the deposit can be equal to the first month's rent. And now they changed it 2 years ago to incentivize landlords to allow for pets, a pet fee that can be equal to the amount of the first month's rent as well. So if you do have pets, understand you could be paying essentially 3 months of rent up front, 2 of them in a deposit format, just to be able to get into a place if they're available.
Yeah, great. Heidi, any final thoughts that we missed that you want to share about renting at all?
Well, I want to share some good news to prospective renters. I was talking to a local property manager the other day, and for kind of the average rental, say a 1 or 2 bedroom condo, median prices for a rental of that type are actually down about 10% compared to a year ago. So rentals are a little more affordable. That said, of the 3 rental managers I talked to in the area that manage long-term rentals, they all had 0 inventory. So it's important to be ready and expect to compete on any type of rental here, no matter what it is. So, it's just the nature of the market, but do you know what? People do find places to live and make it happen. And yeah, that's just how it is.
Dylan, you were going to say something.
One more dynamic, right? So timing wise, because people are like, I'm coming 6 months from now, I need to find a rental. Probably not the best or most effective way to make that happen, because most rental managers are looking maybe a month, 30 to 60 days out, right? They know a tenant is leaving and they're going to have inventory opening. So again, going back to not being picky, you kind of have to pick from what's available like 30 to 60 days before you get here, because that's when things will start coming available. Rental managers will know that there's going to be some inventory. It's going to be super limited, but that's going to be your window. Like if you're looking 6 months out, nobody's going to secure you a rental 6 months from now. It's going to be very hard, and your inventory is going to be way more limited.
Yeah, and to top onto that, part of the reason it's limited is tenants have to give 30-day notice to the landlords, and tenants aren't going to give a 6-month notice. Typically, they're going to give it the last minute, the last 30 days, because they most likely have a new place secured or are going to be moving off. So landlords typically don't even find out about it until the tenant gives them that notice.
Excellent. Hey, thanks, gang. This was a great thing on renting. I hope that this video, we can share this video with all the folks who want to rent in Hawaii and help them get the rent a place to rent as easy as possible.